Welcome to Alberto's Universe. This is Ascension Chronicles Part 6, The Path to Enlightenment. Today we will uncover what happens when we break out of the control system. What happens when our consciousness rises. This is the path to enlightenment. This is the ascension path that you are in. As I said before, if you're here listening to this presentation, it is because you are in the path to a higher consciousness, to a better understanding of who you are, why you are here, and how you relate to the whole universe. On part 4, I introduce the consciousness map, created by Dr. David R. Hawkins. I describe the various consciousness levels exploited and promoted by the control system in part 4. Starting with shame, we moved on to guilt, then apathy, grief, one built onto the other, fear, desire, anger, and finally, pride. All are parts of a long chain that feeds on itself, creating a vicious cycle of low frequency. But before we continue, it is important to look into what a low consciousness is not. Let me explain. When we use the term low consciousness and high consciousness, there is an implied linguistic message of high consciousness being better, superior, or more desirable. In the same way, we are linguistically suggesting that low consciousness or people of low consciousness are somewhat inferior. Yet, nothing could be further from the truth. Neither is better or worse. Low consciousness is simply a state of lower frequency. Likewise, high consciousness is a state of higher frequency. To understand better this point, think of radio stations. Ask yourself, is a radio station that is, say, broadcasting on a frequency of 94.0, is it worse than a different radio station transmitting at 97.5? The channels 94.0 and 97.5 stand for the frequency band in megahertz that each radio company uses to broadcast. Mega standing for millions of hertz, millions of cycles per second. These are two different frequencies and no more. None is intrinsically better than the other. They are simply different. This is why when tuning to your favorite radio station, you probably have no concern of whether the broadcast frequency is higher or lower. All you care about is whether the selected station plays the music you prefer. In the same way, a person resonating at a lower frequency is neither better nor worse than a person resonating at a higher frequency. A low consciousness person is not better or worse in the same way. A person lives in low frequency because that is the consciousness state needed for their chosen life experience. Meanwhile, others decide to experience their life as a high consciousness being. And there are those who come into this life with the goal of experiencing multiple frequency states. I had stated before that before we come into this life, we make a soul contract with our parents. We choose them because each one brings the DNA, each one brings the resonance, the frequencies that are needed for us to have the life experience that we want to have. In some cases, we may choose to be a male. Others, we may choose to be a female. Neither is better. In some situations, we may choose a parent who happens to be African. And we may just as well choose a mother who happens to be Asian. Neither is better. It is just the frequency that we need. In all cases, a lower consciousness level at a low frequency and high frequency, high consciousness levels, we are all equal. And why not? Why not select? We all have free will. We are simply experiencing a different frequency, a different consciousness level. Look back to part 3 in this series. The Mandela effect is what happens when we move around multiple frequencies, when we change our consciousness levels. So now, with that out of the way, let us look at the different stages of consciousness outside of the reach of the control system. We had mentioned in part 4 that it takes courage to admit our reality, to then be able to break away from the low consciousness levels. So now, let us discuss neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, which lead to love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. Neutrality. In the consciousness map, the one that has a range from 0 to 1,000, this consciousness level of neutrality sits right between 20%, 20.1% and 25% of that range. Think of neutrality as a consciousness level of relaxation. This is when we leave rigidity behind and start to open up. We become flexible. We are no longer judgmental. Gaining a higher consciousness is all about embracing. As we come to understand that life and the universe offer more than what was immediately apparent before, inside of the materialistic and controlling environment. As we discover that we always receive what we need at exactly the right time, we create a familial relationship with the universe, a relationship based on cooperation and synchrony. In essence, we learn to walk hand in hand with God. We understand that while we always get what we need, we may not get what we want. We learn to be at peace within. Whether we understand the why things happen to us, we know the outcome will always be the right one. no matter how unpleasant it may seem at the time. We leave anger and frustration behind, even when things don't go our way. Neutrality is the path to greater freedom. We carry a sense of well-being. We remain feeling safe regardless of present events. Others will notice that change in us because we will no longer feel the desire to control people or circumstances. They will see us as being much easier to get along. While some will perceive our new attitude as one of having lost interest in life, the truth is that we are much more interested in learning and experiencing the many colors and flavors available to all in this lifetime. We simply are no longer intending to construct or destruct anything. We learn to be flexible and relaxed. While at this level of consciousness, willingness. This sits between 25.1% and 31% of the total range. We continue to move upwards. Neutrality's flexibility then sets the stage for willingness. This is where we develop the willingness to face our inner issues. We are finally able to face fears. We start to heal and forgive those who have wronged us. We begin to see those who previously harmed us as loving volunteers. We are simply helping us get what we wanted out of this experience. We become capable of erasing all victim programming. We transform traumas into experience events. We know they were just experiences. We become self-guided, self-correcting. We learn from others. As we have grown committed to participating in life, we find joy in all we do. Willingness attracts abundance. We leave complaints and fears behind. These changes give rise to self-esteem. Acceptance. This is within the range of 31.1% and 35%. Loaded with higher self-esteem, we start taking full responsibility for our life. We accept that we are creators of this, our experience. We finally see how happiness and love are created within us before they are manifested into our reality. Happiness and love are no longer seen as obtainable from the outside. They are now created within us instead. Therefore, the level of acceptance is not the passive stage that the word may suggest. On the contrary, acceptance refers to the proactive stage where we accept our role as creators. This is where we begin to claim our sovereignty and free will. When something no longer suits us, we invite change. We no longer get lost in the details. We begin to see the bigger picture. We are not distracted by the noise of life. Our perception is clearer and less distorted. Reason. This sits at between the 35.1% and 40% of the total consciousness range. A clearer view of everything helps make life's problems much easier to address. Therefore, reason is not a stage where we abandon emotions. Intuition and telepathy, for example, work through our emotional system. Even the universe communicates with us through emotional signals. Instead, reason is where we leave uncontrollable reactions behind. We are no longer emotional infants. At this stage, we finally use our intellectual abilities without the limits placed by the control system's programming. Here, it is important to acknowledge that the state of reason could create the impression that the mind is ever superior. When that happens, this stage of consciousness will become a barrier, keeping us away from higher levels. Reason could become a limiting factor. Many scientists fall into this trap. So, in order to break out of this level, one has to move from objective linearity, which is promoted in reason, to subjective nonlinearity. Allow me to explain. It is part of our human condition to see everything as linear, to see all as delineated by straight lines, shaped by straight lines. For example, when home prices move upwards, we tend to believe that they will continue in that direction indefinitely. But the reality of pricing, any pricing, is that things go up and they then go down. No straight line. Moreover, everything we design and build reflects our affinity for straight lines. We draw homes with straight lines. We build roads with straight lines. Straight lines are reason-based, but the universe is anything but straight. Everything in nature is shaped with curves. Climatic temperature moves up, then it goes down. The universe is not only cyclical, but also appears to be random. The order that creates our universe even seems chaotic at times. It appears sentimental. It matters not whether we are looking at temperature graphs over 10 years, 100 years, or millions of years. The disorganized arrangement of curves persists. This is why we describe nature as fractal. Fractals are forms that keep their character, their shape, their design, whether viewed up close or from far away. Therefore, if consciousness is the path towards full alignment with the universe, we should agree that reason should not be the highest expression. It shouldn't be the highest frequency possible. Love. Love sits at 40.1% to 50% of the total range. It is interesting that the level of consciousness above reason is an emotion. But note that the love we discuss here is not the romantic kind. Instead, love is an energy field, a state of being. When we live within this frequency, we are able to love everything unconditionally. A few years ago, I worked with a friend who was facing several debilitating illnesses. He was a philosopher with many academic doctorates. To him, everything in life revolved around reason. Once, as part of his therapy, I asked him to envision a stranger. I then asked him to love that stranger. I asked him to see a cashier at the supermarket and to then love the cashier at the supermarket unconditionally. To this challenge, he responded by qualifying the kind of love he could feel towards our imaginary cashier. He limited love. He created a condition. He said that, yes, he could love that stranger, but within limited boundaries. He could love her as a stranger. His rational mind struggled as he tried to work through the mental exercise. I then made the exercise more difficult. I asked him to imagine instead a light pole. More specifically, a concrete light pole, like those lining streets in every city. I then repeated my challenge to feel unconditional love, but this time towards the inanimate object. He had to dig deep inside of him to find love towards an artificial, lifeless object that was manufactured within a serialized production line. Obviously, his rational, trained mind struggled. To help him, I explained that both he and the pole were created from the same energy, the universe's energy. That the only difference between the two of them was frequency. Both were made from the exact same thing and came from exactly the same place. Moreover, he and the pole were here to experience life, to experience their existence. They both had a purpose. I reminded him that the light pole was very good at its job, at its purpose. I built a connection between him and the light pole. That's because all we need to love a light pole is to understand that we are one with each other. He needed to find the love for self and apply it to the light pole. You see, our universe uses love as its main building block. We love our children because we created them. We love our poems and paintings because we created them. Likewise, we are God's creation. We are created by this universe. And since all we can observe and all that lies beyond our sight, we're all created, we could say that the most abundant energy in the universe is that of love. We could say that being creators ourselves, we too are beings of love. Love is compassion, forgiveness, nurturing. When in the love frequency, our intuition becomes stronger. By following the heart, we find our true purpose. Joy. Joy is between 50.1% and 54% of the total range. It's interesting how we have advanced only just above 50% of the total range to enlightenment. Nothing creates joy like finding purpose in life. Joy becomes stronger as love becomes unconditional. Joy has the ability to permeate every aspect of our life. Being in the presence of someone of this frequency feels amazing. A person at the consciousness level of joy has the ability to raise frequency in others. When in joy, everything happens in synchrony. Near-death experiences often allow people to experience joy, at least temporarily. In joy, divine will replaces personal will. This is where miracles happen. Peace, 54% to 60% of the total range. Let us stay in wonder as we witness how peace is the inevitable consequence from living a life driven by miracles. Words seem inadequate when describing this level of consciousness. If we were to try, we would describe peace as a level of complete transcendence and bliss. Peace is the expression of the God consciousness. Enlightenment, 60% to 100%. Full enlightenment is where humanity blends with divinity. At this level, we are one with the all. We exist in perfect understanding. And that was the consciousness map. As my mind visualized the various consciousness levels as I worked through the map with you, I found it impossible not to connect with each frequency state. I was especially touched when covering love and joy. I am therefore left buzzing. People often ask my opinion on how to proceed in life. My answer is to always follow your greater joy. This will place you in an alignment with the universe and with your purpose in life, the purpose chosen by you. And also remember that ascension does not take place over a straight line. Like the rest of nature, ascension follows a series of curves, of waves. What matters is that we are continuously experiencing higher lows and higher highs in frequency as we move along. Ascension is not a point in space. Raising our resonant frequency is a process. As you work through your ascension, find ways to incorporate higher frequency people and higher frequency events into your life. Because emotions are key during ascension, the best way to shift into a higher frequency is by feeling the desired resonance. Being in the proximity, building close relationships with high frequency people helps us feel, helps us tune into our desired state of consciousness. From now on, consider reducing your reliance on aggressiveness and coercion. Finally, an essential element of ascension is to maintain the right mind and body. So, meditate. Meditation is not a religious practice. Instead, meditation is a muscle exercise that teaches your mind to focus and to remain open. And breathing is an important part of meditation. It is said that the secret to life is breathing. Thank you.